The royal court of Veyrhall gathered at midnight to prove Nora Vale had no wolf. They called it a scent trial, because wolves preferred sacred names for cruel things. The silver basin stood at the center of the throne hall, filled with moonwater gathered from the high temple pools. Around it, nobles in black velvet and winter fur leaned forward with solemn faces, pretending they had not come to watch a girl be erased by law. Nora stood barefoot on the cold stone in a thin white trial dress. Her dark hair had been brushed too roughly and tied at the nape of her neck. Her hands were unbound, but 2 guards stood behind her, close enough that everyone understood freedom was only decoration. No one stood with her. That had always been the shape of Nora's life. In Veyrhall, every wolf carried scent. Even a newborn had one. Pine, smoke, rain, iron, milk, snow, fear, blood, something. Scent proved pack, memory, hunger, belonging. It told mothers which child cried in the dark. It told mates when the bond awakened. It told hunters where the wounded had run. Nora had none. She had been found as a child near the East Laundry, wrapped in a gray blanket without crest, name, or scent trail. The trackers could not follow where she came from. The hounds refused to bark at her. Wolf pups slept through her touch as if she were air. When she bled, no hunting wolf could find the blood after. The servants called her quiet. The nobles called her wrong. The healers called her unfinished. High healer Sorel stood beside the moonwater basin in pale blue robes, her silver hair braided with pearls. She had delivered royal heirs, buried Lunas, and treated alpha blood for 30 years. People trusted her because her voice was gentle when it ruined lives. "Step forward," Sorel said. Nora obeyed. On the obsidian throne above them sat Alpha King Ronan Draven. He was 33, broad-shouldered, dark-haired, and feared across the northern packs. A black crown rested above his gold eyes, but the crown did not make him powerful. The room did. The way every wolf lowered their gaze when he moved did. The silence that followed his breath did. Still, Nora noticed what the court pretended not to see. He looked tired, not weak, never weak. But something in him was strained too tightly. A shadow marked the skin beneath his eyes. His right hand rested near the base of his throat, as if guarding an old pain. The servants whispered that the king had not slept for 7 nights, that his wolf had not answered during the last moon hunt, that sometimes, near dawn, a sound came from his chambers like a beast choking on its own howl. No one said those things in court. Kings were allowed to hide wounds. Scentless girls were not. Sorel dipped a silver needle into the moon water. By the law of blood and scent, Nora Vale will be tested before crown and court. If the moon recognizes her wolf, the water will bloom. If the water remains still, her condition will be judged as sickness, curse, or threat. Nora lifted her chin. "I have harmed no one." A nobleman laughed softly. "Can absence harm?" Another answered. "It can hide harm," the court murmured. Nora did not look toward them. She had survived 19 years by never letting cruelty see where it landed. Sorel took her hand. Her touch was soft. The needle was not. Pain opened in Nora's fingertip. 1 red drop fell into the basin. The moon water swallowed it. Nothing happened. No ripple. No glow. No silver bloom beneath the surface. Only stillness. The silence that followed felt almost holy. Then someone whispered, "Empty." Another voice said, "No wolf." A third, colder, said, "No soul." Nora pulled her hand back, but Sorel held her wrist a moment longer, looking at the unstirring water with sorrow so perfect it felt rehearsed. "Your Majesty," Sorel said, turning toward the throne. "The moon gives no answer." Ronan's gaze remained on Nora. "Has this happened before?" Sorel paused, only for a breath, but Nora felt it. So did the king. "Rarely," the healer said. Ronan's fingers tightened once on the throne arm. "Rarely is not never." The court went still. Sorel lowered her head. In old records, scentless blood is linked to dream corruption, severed souls, false bodies, and forbidden magic used to enter protected houses. Fear moved quickly after that. It always did when given permission. "I am not a witch," Nora said. Her voice was small in the throne hall, but it did not break. Sorel looked at her with polished pity. "Child, if you had a wolf, we would know." There was no defense against absence. Nora could not prove something had been stolen from her if the whole kingdom preferred to believe it had never existed. Ronan rose. Every wolf in the hall lowered their eyes. He descended the throne steps slowly, power moving with him like a winter storm held inside skin. Nora forced herself not to step back when he stopped before her. Up close, she saw the scar, a thin silver line at the base of his throat, half hidden by his collar. It looked old, almost healed, but when he stood near her, it pulsed once beneath the skin. Nora stared before she could stop herself. Ronan's voice dropped. "What are you looking at?" She should have lied. Instead, exhaustion made her honest. "Your scar moved." Sorel went very still. Ronan's eyes sharpened into danger. "No one sees that scar unless I permit it." "Then perhaps I did not see it with my eyes." The silver basin cracked. Moonwater spilled across the black floor, rushing not toward the drains, but toward Nora's bare feet. It circled her ankles in a perfect ring of light. The court recoiled. Sorel seized Nora's arm. "Your Majesty, this confirms contamination. She must be contained before it reaches your bloodline." Ronan looked from the broken basin to Nora's face. For one moment, suspicion warred with something darker, recognition without memory. Then pain crossed his expression so quickly, only Nora seemed to catch it. His hand rose to his throat. Beneath his collar, the old scar burned silver. Sorel saw it. Her voice sharpened. "The moon tower." Nora's blood went cold. Even the nobles fell silent. The moon tower stood on the far cliff above the sea, built for cursed Lunas, mad heirs and royal women, whose dreams were said to infect the kingdom. No one sent there returned unchanged. Ronan's jaw tightened. "You would imprison an unproven girl in the tower. I would protect your wolf." The words struck him harder than Nora expected. Then his face closed. "Take her," he said. The guards grabbed Nora. She did not fight. Not because she accepted it, but because she had learned long ago that bare hands did not stop law when law wanted a body to blame. As they dragged her past the cracked basin, the moonwater rose and touched her bleeding fingertip. The hall vanished. For one breath, Nora stood in a silver forest beneath a black moon. Before her rose an ancient throne, covered in blooming silver roses. At its base lay a huge dark wolf, chained by the throat, its golden eyes dim with pain. The wolf lifted its head. "Nora," it said. Then the vision shattered. She was dragged screaming from the throne hall while the court erupted behind her. Ronan stood frozen at the foot of his own throne, one hand pressed to his burning scar. And that night, when Nora Vale was locked inside the moon tower above the cliffs, the Alpha King slept for the first time in 7 nights. In his dream, she waited beside the silver rose throne, and his dying wolf crawled toward her like she was the only moon it had left. The moon tower had no bars. That was the first cruelty. Nora had expected iron chains, cold straw, and a cell honest enough to call itself a prison. Instead, the chamber was beautiful. Pale stone walls curved around her in a perfect circle, veined with silver that caught the moonlight and made the room glow even after the guards locked the door. Tall, narrow windows opened to the sea cliffs. A white bed waited beneath a canopy of thin gauze. A carved wardrobe held 3 clean gowns softer than anything Nora had ever owned. It was a cage, dressed as Mercy. She stood in the center of the room, still wearing the trial dress, her cut fingertip wrapped in cloth. Far below, waves struck the black rocks with the steady violence of something trying to break the world open. Behind the locked door, 2 guards whispered prayers, as if scentlessness could pass through wood. Nora crossed to the nearest window and looked down at Veyrhall Palace. Somewhere beneath those dark roofs, the court would be naming her. Witch, curse, empty vessel, false body, dream corruption. They had always found words for her that did not require kindness. For the first hour, nothing happened. For the second, the moon climbed higher. For the third, the silver veins in the walls began to glow. Nora turned slowly. Moonlight gathered on the floor, shaping itself into a rose. Then another. Then dozens. Silver roses bloomed from the stone around her bare feet, petal by petal, their light soft and cold. Nora stepped back, but the roses did not follow like a trap. They opened toward the eastern wall, all turning at once as if listening. Old carvings surfaced beneath the stone. A girl asleep inside a crescent-shaped cradle. A wolf chained beside a throne. A woman holding a silver knife over 2 sleeping children. Nora touched the wall with her bandaged fingertip. The tower vanished. She stood again in the silver forest. The ancient throne rose before her beneath black trees, covered in roses that glowed like pieces of the moon. At its base lay the dark wolf from her vision, enormous and wasted, chained by a silver collar, buried deep in its fur. Its golden eyes opened when she appeared. "You came." Nora's breath caught. "Are you the king's wolf?" The wolf's ribs moved with a painful breath. "I am what remains of him when the crown sleeps." She moved closer, but stopped before the chains. "Who did this to you?" The wolf turned its head toward the collar. "Ask the healer who cut scent from the bond. High Healer Sorella." The name entered Nora like cold iron. Before she could ask more, the dream shook. A man appeared beside the throne. Alpha King Ronan Draven stood barefoot in the silver grass, dressed in black sleep clothes, his dark hair loose, one hand pressed to the scar at his throat. Blood ran between his fingers. He looked first at the wolf, then at Nora. For one long breath, he was not the king who had ordered her taken. He was a man staring at a wound he had carried for years, without understanding its shape. Then suspicion returned. "What did you do?" he demanded. Nora's anger rose faster than fear. "I was locked in your tower. I did not choose your dream. No one enters my wolf's mind. Then someone opened the door before I arrived." The wolf gave a low sound, almost approval. Ronan looked at it sharply. "You hear him?" He said my name. The king went still. That was when Nora understood. Ronan had not heard his own wolf clearly in years, yet she had heard it on her first night in the tower. Around them, the roses opened wider. One silver petal fell from the throne. When it touched the ground, a memory rose between them. A boy of 16 knelt in a moonlit chamber, his dark hair falling over his eyes, his throat bare beneath a silver blade. Ronan, younger, furious, frightened beneath the pride. Across from him, a little dark-haired girl slept inside a circle of silver roses. Her small hands were curled against her chest. A faint glow moved over her skin like moonlight, searching for a way in. High Healer Sorel stood between them. "If the bond remains," she whispered, "both children die." Then the knife flashed. The memory shattered. Nora staggered back. "Was that me?" Ronan's face had gone pale. "I do not remember this." "Because she cut the memory with the scent," the wolf said. The dream darkened. From somewhere beyond the trees came Sorel's voice, soft and cold. "Nora," she called. "Wake up." The wolf lunged against its chains. The collar burned white. Ronan stepped toward Nora and caught her wrist, his hand hot and real around her skin. For a heartbeat, the forest, the tower, and the throne hall seemed to exist at once. "Do not trust her," he said. Then Nora woke in the moon tower with silver roses covering the floor. The room was no longer empty. High healer Sorel stood inside the chamber with 4 guards behind her. No lock had sounded. No door had opened. She had entered, as if the tower belonged to her more than it belonged to the king. In her hand, she carried the same silver knife from the dream. Nora rose slowly from the floor. Sorel looked at the roses, then at Nora's face. Her expression did not show surprise, only disappointment, as if Nora had misbehaved by surviving a secret. "You should not have found the forest so soon," the healer said. Nora's fingers curled at her sides. "You cut something from me. I saved you. You stole my scent." Sorel stepped forward. "I removed death sentence." The guard shifted uneasily behind her. Sorel's voice softened, becoming the voice the court trusted. "You were born tied to the royal wolf through a forbidden dream. Bond. A bond like that does not bless kingdoms. It devours them. Had I left it whole, the king's wolf would have found you before either of you understood what hunger meant." Nora thought of the chained wolf crawling toward her, dying instead of hunting. "You are lying. I am protecting him. And me?" Sorel's eyes cooled. "You were protected by being forgotten." The words struck cleanly. Forgotten. As if Nora's loneliness had been mercy. As if every door closed in her face. Every mother pulling a child away, every year of being treated like a body without proof, had been a kindness done for her own good. The roses at Nora's feet brightened. Sorel lifted the knife. The dream. Bond is waking. If it fully returns, the court will not only fear you, they will kill you. Let me finish what I began before the king remembers enough to destroy himself for you. Nora stepped back. "No." Sorel's mouth tightened. "You have no idea what you are refusing." "Maybe not," Nora said. "But I know what it feels like to have my life decided by people who call theft protection." A rose burst into silver flame between them. At that exact moment, a sound echoed through the tower stairwell. Footsteps. Heavy. Fast. Angry. Sorel turned. The door slammed open hard enough to crack the stone. Alpha King Ronan stood in the threshold, black cloak thrown over his sleep clothes, blood still staining his throat, gold eyes burning with the fury of a wolf that had finally found the door to its cage. He looked at Sorel's knife, then at Nora, then at the silver roses covering the floor. His voice was low and deadly. "What did you cut from us?" The question broke the tower more deeply than the door had. "What did you cut from us?" "Not from me. Us." Nora felt the word strike Sorel before the healer could hide it. The silver knife trembled once in her hand. Only once. But Ronan saw it, and so did Nora, and something dangerous shifted in the room. The guards behind Sorel looked suddenly uncertain. They were trained to fear witches, cursed towers, and scentless girls. They were not trained to stand between an alpha king and the woman who had cut memory from his blood. Sorel recovered first. She lowered the knife slightly, not enough to surrender it, only enough to look calm. "Your Majesty, you should not be here. The dream bond is manipulating your wolf. You are bleeding because she reached too deeply." Ronan stepped into the chamber. The silver roses bent toward him. He noticed. His face did not change, but Nora saw the shock pass behind his gold eyes. The flowers had not bent toward the crown. They bent toward the wound. "I asked what you cut from us," he said. Sorel's mouth tightened. "A corrupted bond." "Whose?" Silence. Outside the tower, the sea crashed below the cliffs. Inside, the roses glowed brighter, their light reflecting on the silver knife like moonlit bone. Sorel looked at Nora. "You think this is romance because the dream has made it beautiful. It is not. It is hunger wearing roses. The first dream bond nearly destroyed Veyrhall. A royal wolf bound to a scentless vessel can lose the difference between waking and dreaming. He will follow her into sleep, then into madness, then into death." Nora's stomach twisted. The wolf had said it was dying. Sorel had said she saved them. Both could not be true. Ronan's voice was cold. "And you decided this when I was 16. I decided what your father ordered me to decide." The room went still. For the first time, Ronan looked truly struck. "My father knew?" Sorel's eyes softened with something that almost resembled grief. "Your father feared losing you more than he feared being cruel. The girl was found after the Old Moon Rebellion. No scent, no pack mark, no trace. Yet your wolf reacted before anyone else could smell her. You were a prince. She was nothing the court could name. The bond should not have existed." Nora flinched despite herself. Nothing the court could name. Again and again, her life had been reduced to that. Ronan turned toward her sharply, as if he had felt the wound through the dream bond before she had shown it on her face. That frightened her more than his anger. Sorel saw the look between them and lifted the knife again. "Do you see? It has begun. Her pain will become yours. Your wolf will mistake her loneliness for command. Every wound she carries will pull at you until you cannot rule without asking whether she aches." Ronan's jaw clenched. Nora expected him to step back. He did not. "If my rule depends on not feeling the wound I caused," he said, "then perhaps it deserves to suffer." Sorel's face hardened. "That is not your wolf speaking. That is the bond." "No," Nora said quietly. Both of them looked at her. Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to stand straight among the roses. "That is the first honest thing I have heard from a king tonight." For a heartbeat. Ronan's gaze locked with hers. Something moved there. Not tenderness. Not trust. Something more dangerous because it had no name yet. Recognition beginning to remember itself. Then the silver knife flashed. Sorel moved faster than Nora expected. She cut her own palm and flung blood across the floor. The roses hissed where the drops landed, their petals darkening from silver to ash. Ronan lunged, but the tower walls answered Sorel first. Old runes burned through the stone. The doorway sealed shut with moonlight. The guards shouted from outside, suddenly trapped beyond the chamber. Sorel stepped backward into the center of a ritual circle. Nora had not noticed beneath the roses. "This tower was built for dream corruption," the healer said. "Do you think I would enter it without command over its bones?" The ash-black roses began to twist. Nora felt the dream forest pull at her from beneath the waking floor. The tower blurred. The sea vanished. Ronan staggered, one hand to his throat, as silver light spread from the old scar down beneath his collar. Sorel pointed the knife at Nora. "The bond cannot be allowed to return. If the king will not permit me to finish the severing, then the tower will show him what you are." The floor split open into moonlight. Nora fell, not physically. Her body remained standing, but her mind plunged into the silver forest so violently that her breath vanished. She landed hard beside the rose-covered throne. The dark wolf thrashed at its chains, eyes burning brighter now, not healed but awake. Ronan appeared beside her a second later, dropping to one knee. The collar around the wolf's throat blazed. Above them, Sorel's voice echoed through the dream. "Show him." The forest changed. Nora saw herself as a child in the laundry yard, silent while other children tested whether she was real by throwing stones behind her to see if dogs reacted. She saw mothers pulling babies away, healers refusing to touch her, unless gloves covered their hands. She saw herself at 13, washing blood from the royal steps after a hunt, while young Ronan passed above without seeing her. Then, the dream twisted crueler. It showed Ronan standing over her in the throne hall. Ronan ordering her taken. Ronan letting the court name her threat. Nora tried to turn away. The dream would not let her. Sorel's voice whispered, "This is what the bond will feed him. Shame. Guilt. Her suffering. He will break under it." Ronan stood very still. Nora expected anger. Sure, you a king's instinct to reject what made him guilty. Instead, he looked at every memory. All of it. When the last vision faded, He turned toward Sorel's unseen presence. "If this is what she survived while my court looked away," he said, voice low, "then it is not corruption for my wolf to know it." The chains around the dark wolf cracked. Sorel screamed. Nora looked at Ronan, stunned. The wolf rose on shaking legs. Not free. Not yet. But no longer crawling. Then the dream throne bloomed with hundreds of silver roses, and beneath their roots, something appeared. A sleeping girl made of moonlight, hidden under the throne itself. She had Nora's face. The wolf lowered its head toward the sleeping figure. Ronan stared. "What is that?" Nora's chest tightened. The sleeping girl opened her silver eyes, and in Nora's own voice, she whispered, "The part of us they buried." The sleeping girl beneath the silver rose throne opened her eyes, and Nora felt the world inside her split. Not painfully, not like the silver needle or Sorel's knife. This was worse because it felt like recognition. The girl beneath the throne had Nora's face, but not Nora's exhaustion. Her skin glowed faintly with moonlight. Her dark hair floated around her as if she were lying underwater. Silver roses had grown over her wrists, her ankles, her heart, not wounding her, but holding her in place like something precious buried too long. Ronan stepped toward her, but the dark wolf growled, not in warning, in agony. Nora touched her own chest. "That is me." The sleeping girl looked at her. "No, I am what they took so you could survive without being found." Sorel's voice cut through the dream forest like a blade. "Do not listen to it. Dream fragments speak in symbols. That thing is corruption wearing your face." The sleeping girl turned her silver eyes upward, toward the unseen healer. "Then why did you hide me under the king's wolf throne?" The forest shook. Ronan's gold eyes snapped toward the chained wolf. "Answer her." For the first time, Sorel did not respond. Nora slowly approached the throne. Every step made silver roses bloom beneath her feet. The sleeping girl reached one hand toward her, but the rose vines tightened and pulled her back. A memory rose from the throne roots. This time, Sorel did not control it. Nora saw a hidden chamber beneath the old moon temple. The walls were carved with roses, wolves, and crescent eyes. A younger Sorel stood beside Ronan's father, King Draven, while a 16-year-old Ronan lay unconscious on a stone altar. Across from him, a small dark-haired child slept inside a circle of silver roses. Nora, but not the Nora she knew. That child had scent. The memory carried it like music. Rain on moonlit stone, wild roses, warm fur, and something ancient beneath it all. The scent of a living wolf. Soul. Young Ronan's wolf stirred inside him and turned toward the sleeping child. Sorel whispered, "The bond has awakened too early." King Alaric's face twisted with fear. "Sever it. If we sever fully, one may die. Then bury what must be buried." Nora's breath stopped. The memory showed the silver knife cutting a thread of moonlight between Ronan's throat and the child's heart. The thread did not break cleanly. It screamed. Young Ronan convulsed. The child opened her eyes once, silently, as if she had no voice yet for betrayal. Sorel pressed her blood to the floor and whispered old words. The child's scent vanished. Ronan's memory collapsed, and the severed piece of the child, the wolf soul, the dream self, the living half of her bond, was pushed beneath the silver rose throne, hidden inside Ronan's dream. Nora staggered backward. Ronan caught her before she fell. The moment his hand touched her arm, the dream forest blazed silver. He released her at once, jaw tight. "I am sorry." The apology was too small for what the memory had shown, but it was the only honest thing that could fit inside the moment. Nora stared at the sleeping girl. "I was not born scentless." "No," the girl whispered. "You were made unreachable." Ronan turned toward the unseen healer's voice. "Why?" Sorel finally answered, but her voice had changed. Less gentle, less holy, more tired. "Because your father believed the prophecy." The dark wolf's ears flattened. Ronan's face hardened. What prophecy? The throne root split open. An old silver tablet rose from beneath the roses, cracked down the center. Words burned across it in moonlight. When the scentless rose returns to the king's dream, the chained wolf shall wake, the false healer shall bleed, and the throne that forgot its mate shall kneel. The forest went silent. Nora stared at the word mate as if it were a trap. Ronan did not move. For several breaths, neither of them spoke. A mate bond should have been sacred, recognized, protected, celebrated before the court. But this one had been cut before Nora could remember it, buried inside dreams, turned into absence, then used to condemn her. Nora looked at Ronan. Do not say it. His eyes met hers. I was not going to. The answer surprised her. He looked at the prophecy, then at the sleeping girl beneath the throne. A bond stolen before either of us could choose it is not a claim. The silver roses trembled. The sleeping girl's eyes softened. Nora felt something inside herself loosen. Not healed, but less alone. Then the dream darkened. Sorel's voice returned, sharper than before. Enough. The silver knife appeared in the air above the throne, enormous now, made of moonlight and old blood. It descended toward the sleeping girl's chest. Ronan moved first. The dark wolf moved with him. Nora did not think. She ran toward the throne and threw herself over the sleeping girl. The knife struck. Pain tore through Nora's shoulder, bright and freezing. Ronan shouted her name. The dark wolf lunged so hard the chains cracked again, one link snapping with a sound like thunder. The forest exploded into roses, and for one breath, Nora felt both versions of herself, the girl who had survived without scent, and the buried wolf soul that had waited beneath the throne. They touched, not fully, just fingertips. The waking world slammed back. Nora collapsed onto the moon tower floor, gasping. Silver roses burned around her. Blood darkened the shoulder of her white dress where the dream blade had struck. Ronan was on one knee beside her, one hand hovering over the wound, afraid to touch without permission. Sorel stood across the chamber, her silver knife cracked down the blade. The guards were outside the sealed door, pounding uselessly. Ronan looked from Nora's bleeding shoulder to the broken knife. His voice was quiet enough to be terrifying. You wounded her in a dream. Sorel's face had gone pale. Nora forced herself upright, despite the pain. She did more than that. Ronan's gaze returned to her. She looked at him, then at the roses, then at the healer who had named theft as protection. I had a scent, Nora said. I had a wolf. Soul. You buried it inside his dream. The tower walls began to crack. Silver rose vines spread through the stone, down the stairwell, into the palace below. Far beneath them, every wolf in Veyrhall began howling again, not in fear this time. In recognition, Sorel lifted the broken knife with shaking hands. If the bond fully returns, the court will tear her apart. Ronan rose slowly. Blood still marked his throat. Nora's blood marked the tower floor. Silver roses climbed the walls around them like a judgment no law could stop. Then, the Alpha King said, the court will answer to me first. The door burst open. Royal guards flooded the threshold, then froze at the sight of the roses, the blood, the broken knife, and their king standing between the healer and the scentless girl he had condemned. Ronan did not look away from Sorel. Take her to the throne hall, he said. Sorel's eyes widened. Your Majesty, Ronan's wolf growled through his voice, before the court that believed her empty. By dawn, the throne hall of Veyrhall was full again. This time, the court did not gather with hunger. It gathered with fear. Silver rose vines had grown down from the moon tower during the night, crawling across the palace walls, threading through window arches, curling around wolf banners, and blooming along the black marble pillars of the throne hall. No servant dared cut them. One guard had tried with a steel blade, and watched the metal turn white with frost before shattering in his hand. Now the roses covered the floor around the silver basin that had cracked during Nora's scent trial. Nora stood before that basin again, but she was not barefoot this time because they had dragged her there. She stood because Ronan had asked, not commanded, and because the sleeping girl beneath the dream throne had whispered one word through the pain in her shoulder: witness. Her wound was wrapped in clean linen beneath a dark gray cloak. Ronan had offered the cloak without touching her. The small restraint mattered more than Nora wanted it to. Alpha King Ronan stood on the lowest throne step, not seated above the court. His throat was still marked by the silver scar, now open and glowing faintly beneath his collar. His face was cold enough to silence every noble whisper, but Nora saw the cost beneath it. The dream had shown him too much too quickly. His wolf was awake enough to suffer, but not free enough to heal. High Healer Sorrel stood between two royal guards. Her hands were unbound. That enraged Nora at first, until she noticed every silver rose in the hall had turned its bloom toward the healer like 100 pale eyes. Ronan spoke first. Last night, High Healer Sorrel entered the moon tower with a ritual knife against my order. Sorrel lifted her chin. Against your illness, your majesty. Not your order. A murmur passed through the court. Ronan's gaze cut through it. You will not dress treason as medicine. Sorrel turned toward the nobles, her voice calm and clear. The king is compromised. You saw the basin crack. You saw Moonwater answer the girl. You see the flowers growing through sacred stone. This is dream corruption, exactly as the old records warned. Nora felt the court shift. Fear was easy to guide when people already wanted somewhere to put it. Sorrel looked at Nora with mournful certainty. She does not smell of wolf because she is not fully here. She is a door, a vessel, a dream, body carrying a buried hunger. If the king's wolf reaches her, he will not find a mate. He will find the madness that destroyed the first Rose Court. The words struck Nora harder than she expected, not because she believed them, because part of her feared everyone else would. Ronan took one step forward. Then let the court see what you buried. Sorrel's eyes flickered. Dream. Evidence cannot be trusted. Convenient, Ronan said. Since dreams are where you hid it. He lifted his hand. At first, nothing happened. Then the roses around the cracked basin opened. Moonlight poured from their petals, rising into the air above the hall. A vision formed inside it. The hidden chamber beneath the old moon temple, young Ronan unconscious on one altar, child Nora asleep inside silver roses, King Alaric ordering the bond severed, Sorrel cutting the moonlit thread between them. Gasps broke through the court. Sorrel's composure cracked. That is not the full truth. Then give us the full truth, Ronan said. The vision shifted. This time, Nora saw something new. After the severing, Sorrel did not leave the sleeping child to die. She knelt beside Nora and pressed a shaking hand to her small face. Tears shone in the healer's eyes. You will live, young Sorrel whispered. Even if they never know what you were. Nora's breath caught. The court saw it too. Not a monster, not a villain smiling over a stolen life, but a woman who had made a cruel choice and then built her whole holiness around calling it mercy. Sorrel's voice trembled now. If I had refused Alaric, he would have killed her. He wanted the child destroyed. I convinced him. A scentless girl was safer than a dead one. I gave her years. You gave me absence, Nora said. The healer looked at her then, for the first time, truly looked. And if I had done nothing, you would have had no years at all. The hall fell silent. That was the cruelty of it. Sorrel was not entirely lying. Nora could feel it. The fear, the old king's brutality, the hurried choice in a hidden chamber. But survival bought with erasure was still a prison. Ronan's voice came low. You should have told me. You were 16, Sorrel said bitterly. Your father owned the court, the guards, the healers, the priests. I told myself I would restore what I cut when he died. And when he died, Sorel's face hardened with shame. The kingdom was already afraid of her. Nora understood then. Sorel had not protected the lie only because she feared Ronan's father. She protected it because, after years of silence, truth would expose her as both savior and thief. The cracked basin began to fill again. Moon water rose from nowhere, silver and still. A deep growl sounded through the hall, but no wolf stood there. Ronan gripped the edge of the throne step as his scar burned brighter. Nora saw the dream forest behind his eyes. The chained wolf was pulling against its collar. Sorel saw it too, and moved suddenly toward the basin. If the bond wakes before the buried half is restored, his wolf may break loose. Ronan snarled. Stay back. But Sorel was not reaching for him. She plunged her cut hand into the moon water. The basin turned black. Silver roses across the hall withered at the edges. Nora doubled over as pain tore through her chest. Not the shoulder wound, not the trial cut, but something deeper, beneath the dream throne. The buried girl screamed. Sorel's face twisted with desperation. I can still seal it. I can still keep both of you alive. Ronan staggered. The court erupted. Some nobles shouted for Sorel to stop. Others screamed that Nora was killing the king. Guards drew blades, uncertain whom to defend. Nora lifted her head through the pain and saw the black water rising from the basin like smoke. Inside it, the silver forest appeared. The chained wolf was standing now. The sleeping girl beneath the throne was awake. And between them, the silver collar began to crack not outward, inward. If it broke wrong, Nora knew without knowing how, it would not free Ronan's wolf. It would devour the part of herself buried inside him. Ronan looked at her across the chaos. For once, the Alpha King had no command to give that could fix anything. Nora forced herself upright and stepped toward the black basin. Sorel's eyes widened. Do not. Nora's voice shook. You saved my life once by taking it away. The moon water reached for her like dark hands. This time, Nora said, I choose what returns. Then she placed both hands into the blackened basin, and the throne hall vanished beneath silver roses. Nora fell into the silver forest, with the taste of black moon water in her mouth. This time, she did not land beside the throne. She landed beneath it. Cold roots wrapped around her wrists and ankles, not tightly enough to break bone, only enough to remind her that she had been held here for years without knowing it. Above her, the ancient throne groaned under the weight of blooming silver roses. Their roots pierced the dream soil, tangled around the sleeping girl who wore Nora's face, and reached deeper still into the chained wolf lying beyond the throne's shadow. The buried girl was awake now, her silver eyes fixed on Nora with terrible calm. You came back, she whispered. Nora tried to move, but the roots tightened. I did not know you were here. I know. The softness of the answer hurt more than accusation. Above them, the forest shook. Ronan appeared near the throne, dropping to one knee as if the dream had thrown him there. Blood ran from the scar at his throat. The dark wolf stood behind him, no longer collapsed, but still chained by the silver collar. Every breath it took made the collar burn. Sorel's voice echoed through the trees. Nora, listen to me. If you join with that buried half too quickly, the bond will complete before the king's wolf is stable. He may lose himself. Nora looked up through the roots. And if I do nothing? The buried girl answered instead. Then I die slowly, and he follows. Ronan heard it. His face changed. The court outside was gone, but Nora could still feel it somewhere above the dream. Shouting nobles, drawn swords, Sorel's hand in the blackened basin, the whole kingdom waiting to decide whether Nora's return to herself was miracle or threat. Ronan pushed himself to his feet. What must be done? The buried girl looked at him. You cannot command this open. I was not commanding. Nora believed him. That frightened her in a different way. The dark wolf came closer, dragging its chains through the roses. Its golden eyes met Nora's. The collar was not only around its throat now. Its broken links stretched across the throne roots and disappeared into the buried girl's chest. One wound. 2 prisoners. Nora understood at last. Sorel had not simply cut Nora's scent away. She had hidden Nora's wolf soul inside Ronan's dream to keep the bond from waking. But Ronan's wolf had guarded that buried half for years, chained by the same spell meant to protect him. Every night he failed to sleep. Every hunt where his wolf refused to answer. Every scar that burned without reason, he had been dying around the missing part of Nora. Not because he hated her, because he had been made into her prison. Nora looked at him. "Your wolf has been holding me here." Ronan's jaw tightened with horror. "I did not know." "No," she said. "But your throne did." The words struck him hard. He accepted them. That mattered. The silver roses above the throne trembled. The buried girl reached one hand toward Nora, and this time the roots loosened enough for Nora to reach back. Their fingertips almost touched. Sorel screamed from beyond the forest. "Stop!" The silver knife appeared again, larger than before, its cracked blade descending through the branches toward the rose roots. Ronan moved instantly. So did the wolf. The king seized the blade with both hands before it reached Nora. In the waking world, somewhere above them, his body must have staggered, because the dream shook with courtly screams. Blood opened across his palms, but he did not let go. Sorel's voice broke. "Your Majesty, if the bond completes, the prophecy begins." Ronan looked up at the unseen healer, teeth clenched against pain. "Then let it begin with truth." The knife cracked further. Nora reached again. Her fingers touched the buried girl's hand. The forest exploded into memory. She saw herself as a child, but whole. A tiny girl laughing in a moonlit garden, while a young wolf pup with gold eyes pressed its nose to her palm. She saw Ronan as a boy, serious even then, watching her from behind a stone pillar as if he did not know why he wanted to stay near her. She saw King Alaric's face darken when the royal wolf chose a scentless orphan no bloodline could explain. She saw Sorel arguing, pleading, then obeying. She saw the knife, the severing, the scent vanishing from her skin like smoke stolen by cold wind. Then she saw something Sorel had not shown. After the severing, young Ronan's wolf had broken free from his sleeping body and curled around the buried part of Nora beneath the dream throne, not as captor, as guardian. For 7 years, the wolf had kept the hidden soul alive. Nora gasped. The buried girl rose from the roots and stepped into her. Pain struck first, then scent, rain on stone. Silver roses, warm fur, moonlit blood, the sea below the cliffs. Ronan's grief, her own name, no longer empty. Nora screamed as the stolen scent returned to her skin. In the waking throne hall, every wolf fell silent. Then every head turned toward the black basin. The dream shattered open. Nora stood inside the throne hall, with moonwater streaming from her hands, silver roses blooming up her arms, and the scent of a living wolf's soul filling the air. The court froze. No one whispered empty now. Ronan stood beside the basin, blood on his palms, the scar at his throat split open with silver light. Behind him, visible to every wolf in the hall, rose his dark wolf spirit, huge, wounded, golden-eyed, and no longer crawling. It lowered its head before Nora. Not in submission, recognition. Sorel staggered backward, face white. No. The nobles stared at Nora, as if the person they had condemned had become proof against them. A child in the back of the hall began to cry, not in fear, but relief. "She smells like roses." The words moved through the court. Roses. Rain. Moonlight. Wolf. Nora touched her own throat, shaking. She had a scent. She had always had one. Ronan turned to face the court, his wolf behind him, his blood on the broken basin. His voice carried low and lethal through the hall. Who here still calls her empty? No one answered. Then Sorrel lifted her broken knife one final time. If you will not stop the prophecy, she whispered, then I will expose what the Rose Child truly is. She plunged the blade into the black basin. The moon water turned red, and beneath the throne hall floor, something ancient began to wake. The thing beneath the throne hall did not wake like a beast. It woke like a memory. The black marble floor shuddered. Silver roses recoiled from the basin. Red moon water spilled over the cracked pedestal and ran in thin streams between the stones, not toward Nora, not toward Ronan, but toward the obsidian throne itself. The court backed away in panic. Ronan turned sharply toward Sorrel. What did you do? Sorrel stood with both hands wrapped around the broken knife, her face pale but resolved. What I should have done years ago. The red moon water reached the throne steps. The black stone split. A sound rose from beneath it, not a howl, not a scream, but thousands of sleeping breaths taking air at once. The wolf banners above the hall twisted, though no wind entered. Every torch burned silver. Every noble wolf lowered its head, whining under a pressure older than Alpha Command. Nora felt it inside her newly returned scent. Roses. Rain. Moonlight. Wolf. And beneath that, something deeper. Thorns. The obsidian throne cracked from base to crown. Inside it was not stone. It was a sealed root system, pale silver and black, wrapped around a buried chamber beneath the hall. At the center of the root stood another throne, older than Ronan's, made of moonbone and blooming roses. Around it slept dozens of wolf spirits, not dead, not alive, chained in dream. Nora stepped forward before fear could stop her. Ronan caught her wrist, then released it at once when she looked down at his hand. Do not go near it without knowing what it wants. Nora's voice shook. It already knows me. Sorrel laughed once, broken and bitter. Yes, that is the problem. The buried throne brightened. A woman's voice rose from beneath the cracked floor, soft as petals dragged across stone. Rose Child returned. Dreamgate opened. False crown exposed. The court erupted. False crown. Someone whispered. Ronan's eyes narrowed. Who speaks? The old voice answered from the roots. The first Luna who was buried beneath your throne when kings decided dreams were too dangerous to share. The silver roses around Nora burst into light. A vision opened above the cracked floor. The court saw an ancient age of Veyrhall. Before the obsidian throne, before scent trials, before healers held royal knives. Wolves and dreamseers once ruled together. Alpha kings guarded waking law. Roseblood lunas guarded the dream realm, where wolf spirits healed, mate bonds formed, and broken souls found their way back after war. Then the vision darkened. A king stood alone before the moonbone throne, furious that his Luna could enter dreams he could not command. He called dream magic disobedience. He ordered the first roseblood women sealed beneath the throne, their gifts used only when kings required heirs, healing, or prophecy. The court watched in horror as the old dreamseers were buried alive inside royal sleep. Nora could barely breathe. She understood then. Her scent had not vanished simply because of one bond. Her bloodline itself had been hidden, feared, used, and erased. Sorrel's voice cut through the vision. And do you see why? Dreamseers could bend wolves from inside their sleep. A king could be turned against his own court with a whisper. The ancient voice answered. Or a wounded king could finally hear the truth his court kept from him. Ronan stood very still. The accusation touched more than Sorrel. It touched the throne, his throne. Every ruler before him who had inherited power from buried women and called it royal law. Nora looked at him. He did not defend it. That mattered. Sorrel lifted the broken knife toward Nora. She is not only your mate. She is the last living rose blood dream seer. If her power wakes fully, every wolf in Veyrhall may dream through her. Every secret, every buried crime, every hidden weakness. The court will tear itself apart. Ronan's voice came low. Then perhaps the court should have buried fewer crimes. A murmur spread through the nobles. Some looked ashamed. Others looked terrified for themselves. Nora felt the danger shift. Before, they feared she had no scent. Now they feared she had too much truth. Lord Edrin of the Northern Pack stepped forward, face sharp with panic. "Your Majesty, the healer may have acted harshly, but if the girl can enter royal dreams, she cannot remain free. No kingdom survives with its ruler's mind exposed." Ronan turned on him. "My mind has been exposed for years to a knife I did not remember, and a lie you all benefited from." Edrin flushed. "We did not know." Nora spoke before Ronan could. "You knew enough to call me empty." Silence. The words did not shout. They did not need to. The buried throne pulsed again. A new vision appeared. Nora as a child walking through palace corridors while nobles turned away. Servants hiding her in back rooms when scent hounds passed. Sorel watching from a balcony, grief in her eyes, but doing nothing. Ronan as a young king, passing her once in the east courtyard, his wolf stirring beneath his skin, while he frowned as if a forgotten song had brushed his ear. The court saw it all, not Nora as curse. Nora as someone they had avoided because her existence made their laws uncomfortable. Sorel's hands began to shake. "You think shame will heal him? You think truth will stabilize a dying wolf? The prophecy said the throne would kneel when the scentless rose returned. Do you know what that means? Not romance, collapse." The red moon water rose from the floor, forming a circle around Nora and Ronan. The buried throne began to pull at her scent, calling the restored part of her soul deeper. Ronan stepped between Nora and the throne. The dark wolf spirit behind him did the same. For one heartbeat, fear flashed through Nora. Protection could become a cage. She had lived inside too many beautiful cages already. Ronan seemed to feel that fear through the bond. He looked back at her, and his voice lowered so only she could hear. "I am standing here, not closing the door." Then he moved aside. The choice was hers. Nora stepped toward the cracked floor. The buried moonbone throne answered. Silver roses climbed her dress, not binding, only blooming. The wolf spirits beneath the hall lifted their heads. One by one, their chains became visible. Dream chains, memory chains, oath chains, all tied to the obsidian throne above. Nora placed her hand over her heart. "I am not your weapon," she whispered to the buried throne. The old Luna's voice softened. "No, child. You are the door we left open." Sorel screamed and lunged with the broken knife. Ronan moved to stop her, but Nora raised her hand first. The silver roses turned. They wrapped Sorel's wrist and held her still. The healer froze, staring at the flowers, as if they had betrayed her. "I saved you." Nora's eyes filled with tears. "And then you kept saving the lie." The buried throne blazed. Every wolf spirit beneath the hall rose at once. The obsidian throne cracked apart completely, collapsing in black shards across the floor. Nobles screamed and scattered as the moonbone throne rose from beneath the ruins, covered in silver roses, ancient and undeniable. Ronan stared at it. His crown slid from his head and struck the floor. Not thrown. Rejected. The moonbone throne had refused the false crown. The court fell silent. Nora stood before the risen dream throne, her scent filling the hall, her buried soul restored. Ronan's wolf awake behind her, and for the first time in Veyrhall's history, every wolf in the room heard the same voice in their dreams. "Kneel not to the girl. Kneel to the truth you buried." The throne hall knelt in silence, not gracefully, not all at once. Some nobles dropped first because their wolves forced them. Others resisted until their knees struck the black marble hard enough to echo. A few tried to remain standing out of pride, but the dream voice moved through them like moonlight through water, finding every hidden fear, every buried memory, every lie they had allowed, because it made their world easier to rule. Kneel to the truth you buried. Nora did not move. She stood before the risen moonbone throne, with silver roses blooming around her feet, her restored scent filling the hall so strongly that even she could smell it now. Rain on stone, wild roses under moonlight, warm fur, winter air, and something ancient beneath all of it. Not emptiness, not corruption, not a false body, herself. Ronan's crown lay on the floor near the broken obsidian throne. The sound it had made when it fell still seemed to vibrate through the hall. The Alpha King looked at it, then at the moonbone throne, then at Nora. His face had gone pale, but not with fear for his power. She saw something heavier there, the horror of a man realizing his crown had never sat alone. It had been balanced on a buried throne, a stolen dream, and a girl whose absence kept his bloodline comfortable. Behind him, his dark wolf spirit stood tall for the first time, its golden eyes fixed on Nora. The silver collar around its throat cracked but not broken. High healer Sorrel remained trapped in rose vines, her broken knife hanging uselessly from her hand. Tears streaked her face, but Nora could not tell whether they came from regret, fear, or the pain of being exposed after spending half a lifetime calling herself merciful. Lord Edrin lifted his head from where he knelt. "Your Majesty," he rasped, "this is enchantment." Ronan did not look at him. "No, this is memory. The court cannot be ruled by dreams." Nora turned toward him. The movement alone made several wolves lower their heads again. She hated that a little. She had not wanted fear. She had wanted one honest answer in a world that kept turning her into a question. "The court has been ruled by buried dreams for generations," she said. "You only object now because they are speaking back." Edrin's face tightened. "Another noblewoman," Lady Malus raised her trembling voice. "If she can make us see what has been hidden, then no secret is safe." Nora looked at her. "Perhaps some secrets should not be." Fear sharpened in the hall. Ronan stepped beside Nora, not before her. That too mattered. His voice carried through the chamber. "The Moon Tower prisoner will not be touched." A murmur rippled through the court. Sorrel looked at him with sudden desperation. "Ronan, listen to yourself. You are defending her already. The bond is controlling you." Ronan's gaze finally turned to her. "No," he said quietly. "For the first time in years, I can hear my wolf clearly enough to know when I am choosing." The dark wolf lowered its head, and the cracked collar burned white. Sorrel's face crumpled. Nora almost pitied her. Almost. Then the moonbone throne pulsed. A new vision rose above it, larger than the others. Not memory this time. A record. Silver light shaped itself into a hall older than Veyrhall, where the first Alpha King knelt before a roseblood Luna, not as a subject, not as a conquered man, as a partner. Beside them, wolves slept peacefully in a circle of silver roses, healing from battle within shared dreams. Then came another image, kings growing afraid, councils whispering that Lunas, who could walk through dreams, could weaken command. Healers swearing oaths not to healing, but to containment. Roseblood daughters taken young, bonded to royal wolves, then buried beneath ritual law when they became inconvenient. The final image showed Sorrel as a young healer, kneeling before King Alaric. "She is the last," Sorrel said in the vision, looking down at child Nora. "If you destroy her, the dream throne may never open again." Alaric's voice was cold. "Then hide her, where my son will never find her." Sorrel bowed her head. "I can cut the scent," she whispered. "But the bond may survive in dream, then make dream a prison." The vision faded. No one spoke. Nora looked at Sorrel. The healer had closed her eyes. "You did not only save me from death, Nora said. You saved the king's lie. Sorrel opened her eyes, full of ruin. I was young. I thought if you lived, one day I could undo it. But each year you waited, made the truth more dangerous. Yes, Sorrel whispered. It was the first clean confession she had given. The rose vines loosened slightly around her wrist, but did not release her. Ronan moved toward the broken basin. The moon water inside it had turned silver again, though streaks of red still threaded through it. He looked down at his reflection. King, scarred throat, no crown. Then he took the broken crown from the floor. The court watched. Slowly, Ronan carried it to the moonbone throne and placed it at Nora's feet. Gasps spread through the hall. Nora's heart lurched. Do not. Ronan still. This is not a proposal, she said, voice shaking. Not repentance, not spectacle. Do not make me the reason your court sees you humble. A flicker of pain crossed his face. Then he nodded once. You are right. He picked up the crown again. Instead of placing it at her feet, he set it on the cracked pedestal of the moonwater basin, away from both thrones. I will not wear it, he said to the court, until we know what it was built over. Edrin pushed to his feet. You would suspend the crown because a scentless girl. Ronan's wolf growled. The lord stopped. Nora stepped forward. Say it. Adrian froze. What? Say the word you were about to use. His mouth tightened. Nora's voice was quiet. Empty? Witch? Vessel? Threat? Edrin looked around, searching for allies. He found kneeling wolves and silver roses. Nora turned to the court. You called me empty because my scent was stolen. You called me dangerous because my pain disturbed your law. Now that my scent has returned, you are afraid I will reveal what else was stolen. The moonbone throne glowed behind her. I will. The words struck the hall like a blade. Sorrel drew a shaky breath. If you open every dream, record at once, it may kill you. Ronan looked sharply at Nora. For a heartbeat, she saw fear in him. Not of her, but for her. She hated that it warmed her. She needed to remain angry. She deserved anger. But anger, she was learning, could walk beside something else without disappearing. I will not open everything, Nora said. Not yet. The old Luna's voice answered from the throne. Wise child. Truth must have vessels, or it becomes another flood. Nora looked at Sorrel. Start with the girls. The healer went still. The Roseblood girls, Nora said. Everyone taken. Everyone sealed. Everyone renamed as cursed, mad, barren, or dead. Their names will be read before the court. Lady Malis whispered. There may be hundreds. Then you will learn to listen for a long time. Ronan turned to the royal scribes, who had been trembling near the wall since the throne rose. Bring the sealed records. One scribe swallowed. Your Majesty, those records are under healer authority. Ronan's gaze went cold. Not anymore. The scribes fled. Sorrel sagged against the rose vines. Nora watched her, and for one moment, the healer looked old. Not holy, not cruel, just old, exhausted, and unable to hide inside necessity any longer. Then, a howl rose from outside the palace, not from Ronan's wolf, from many wolves. The sound rolled across Veyrhall in waves, packs from the outer courtyards, royal guards, hunting wolves in the kennels, perhaps even village wolves beyond the walls. The dream throne had not only awakened the court, it had awakened every wolf bound to the kingdom's buried sleep. Ronan turned toward the high windows, Sorrel's face filled with dread. The outer packs will feel it. If they think the king's bond has returned under hidden dream law, they will come. Edrin seized the chance. Then we must contain her before civil war begins. Nora looked at the silver roses climbing the window arches. In their petals she saw distant roads, wolves running under moonlight, messengers saddling horses. rival alphas waking from dreams of buried women and broken crowns. The old Luna's voice whispered through the throne, "The public reversal has begun. Now comes the price." Ronan stood beside Nora, crownless, wounded, his wolf awake but not fully freed. "What do you need?" he asked. The question reached deeper than command ever could. Nora looked at the court that had condemned her, the healer who had stolen her scent, the nobles who feared truth more than injustice, and the moonbone throne waiting behind her. "Witnesses," she said. "And time." Ronan nodded. Then the doors of the throne hall burst open. A bloodied border guard staggered in and fell to one knee. "Your Majesty," he gasped. "The Northern Alphas are coming. They claim the scentless girl has bewitched your wolf." His eyes lifted to Nora, wide with terror. "And they demand she be handed over before moonrise." The bloodied guard's words struck the throne hall harder than any blade. The Northern Alphas were coming. Not one pack, not one rival lord. Alphas, plural. Men who had spent years kneeling to Ronan's crown only because his wolf was stronger than theirs. Men who smiled in court and sharpened claims in private. Men who would gladly call truth a spell if it gave them permission to challenge a wounded king. Nora felt the court turn toward her. Again, fear changed its mask quickly. Hours ago, they had feared she was empty. Now they feared she was too full of power. Too much scent, too much dream, too much history rising through palace stone. Lord Edrin rose fully from his knees, though his wolf still trembled beneath his skin. "Your Majesty, you hear it yourself. The northern packs believe she has bewitched you. If they march on Veyrhall before the bond is understood." "They are not marching because they misunderstand," Ronan said. "They are marching because they do." The hall fell silent. Ronan stood without his crown, blood still drying at his throat, his dark wolf spirit visible behind him like a storm given shape. The collar around the wolf's neck remained cracked, but unbroken. Every time Ronan breathed too deeply, the silver edge burned. Nora saw it. So did Sorel. The healer was no longer bound tightly by the roses, but their vines still circled her wrists. She looked from the border guard to Ronan, then to Nora. "If the Northern Alphas arrive before the wolf is freed, they will force a dominance trial. Your Majesty may win with command, but not with a wounded wolf." Ronan's eyes cut to her. Convenient advice from the woman who wounded him. Sorel bowed her head. "Yes." That single word quieted the room more than any defense would have. "Yes, I wounded him. I wounded her. I kept a lie alive until it grew roots beneath the throne. But that does not make the danger false." Nora hated that she believed her. The old Luna's voice stirred from the moonbone throne. "A broken witness may still speak truth. Do not confuse punishment with strategy." Nora looked at Sorel. "What do the Northern Alphas want besides me?" Edrin answered before the healer could. "Proof that the king rules his own wolf." Ronan turned slowly toward him. Edrin swallowed, but continued. "Your Majesty, if they can claim your bond is being manipulated through dream magic, they can declare your commands compromised. They will call for either the girl's execution or your removal, until a council determines whether you are fit to rule." "And you?" Ronan asked. The lord stiffened. "I speak for stability." "No," Nora said quietly. "You speak for the shape of power you understand." Edrin's eyes flashed. "And you speak as if a tower girl can hold a kingdom together with flowers." Nora stepped toward him. The silver roses did not flare. The throne did not roar. Ronan did not intervene. That made the court listen harder. "I do not want to hold your kingdom together," Nora said. "I want it to stop using buried women as mortar." Edrin looked away first. A distant horn sounded beyond the palace walls. Then another. The northern packs were closer than anyone had hoped. Ronan turned to the guard. "How long?" "Before moonrise, Your Majesty." "Perhaps less." Ronan nodded once. "Seal the lower gates. No attack unless they cross the inner bridge. Send word that I will meet them in the Moon Court. Sorel's head snapped up. The Moon Court is open ground. Yes, if they challenge you there, they will challenge me whether I stand in stone or snow. Nora felt the decision forming before he spoke it. Ronan looked at her. You do not have to stand beside me. The court reacted to the offer with visible alarm. Nora almost smiled, not because anything was amusing, but because he had finally learned the cruelty of deciding for her. I know, she said. His gaze held hers. Then I ask, will you? That question changed the room. Not because it was romantic. It was too dangerous for that. It changed the room because every noble heard the Alpha King ask a girl he had imprisoned to choose before the court that had condemned her. Nora looked toward the moonbone throne. The old Luna did not answer for her. The buried girls in the dream records did not answer. The wolf behind Ronan watched her with golden eyes that no longer begged, no longer crawled, but waited. Nora remembered the moon tower, the scent trial, the word empty moving through the hall like a verdict. She remembered Sorel saying protected by being forgotten. She remembered Ronan ordering her taken. She was not ready to forgive him, but she was ready to refuse being handed over again. Yes, she said. I will stand beside you, not behind you, not beneath your protection. Beside you. Ronan bowed his head once. Beside me. The silver roses around the throne opened wider. By moonrise, the old moon court below Veyrhall's eastern cliffs was filled with wolves. It was an ancient arena of white stone open to the sky, built before the palace grew towers, before the obsidian throne buried the moonbone one. Snow fell lightly over the ring. Torches burned blue along the outer walls. Beyond them, northern pack warriors stood in dark furs, their breath steaming, their wolves restless beneath their skin. At their head stood Alpha Garin of the Blackridge pack, a brutal man with iron-gray hair, broad shoulders, and a scar cutting through one eyebrow. Beside him were 2 other northern alphas and nearly 100 wolves. Ronan entered the moon court without a crown. A murmur moved through the northern ranks. Nora walked beside him. That murmur became a growl. She wore no gown of power, no jewels, no Luna cloak. Only the dark gray cloak Ronan had given her over her blood-marked trial dress. Her shoulder ached beneath the bandage. Her restored scent moved around her like something newly born and still learning how to breathe. Silver roses bloomed where she stepped. Alpha Garin smiled without warmth. So it is true. The scentless girl walks beside you now. Ronan's voice was calm. Nora Vale stands under my protection. Nora glanced at him. He corrected himself before she could speak. And under her own will, Garin's smile thinned. Your will seems crowded lately. Laughter moved through the northern wolves. Ronan did not react. Garin turned his gaze to Nora, inhaled, and frowned when he caught her scent. Rose blood. One of the other alphas spat into the snow. Dream witch. Nora's pulse quickened. Ronan's wolf growled. But Nora lifted one hand slightly, not to command him, to ask space. He gave it. Garin noticed, and his eyes sharpened. Interesting. The king obeys. He listens, Nora said. Garin looked amused. A dangerous habit for rulers. A worse habit is burying the people who tell them the truth. The moon court quieted. Garin stepped closer to the inner ring. Girl, I do not care what flowers grow in your prison. I care that Veyrhall's king has hidden a dream, bond powerful enough to enter every wolf's sleep. Such magic cannot remain beside a throne. Then perhaps the throne should move, Ronan said. Every wolf went silent. Nora looked at him sharply. Ronan did not look away from Garin. The obsidian throne is broken. The moonbone throne has risen. Until the old laws are read and judged, I wear no crown. Garin's expression changed. He had expected denial, not surrender of symbol, but he recovered quickly. Then you admit your reign is unstable. I admit my reign inherited crimes. Garen's wolf surfaced in his eyes. Then submit to a dominance trial. The northern wolves howled. Nora felt the old trap close. If Ronan refused, they would call him weak. If he fought with his wolf still chained, he might lose. If he won by force, the buried truth would become secondary to violence again. Sorel's warning returned. A wounded wolf could win command and still lose the kingdom. Nora stepped forward. Garen's eyes snapped to her. "This is not your trial." "No," Nora said. "It is mine." Ronan turned. "Nora." She did not look back. "You asked me to stand." Silver roses bloomed across the moon court stones, spreading not toward the northern alphas, but toward the center of the arena. Nora lifted her voice. "You claim the king's mind is compromised. Then let the dream throne show what commands him." Garen narrowed his eyes. "Dream tricks. Truth," Nora said. "Unless you fear it, more than combat." The northern wolves growled, but Garen could not refuse without looking afraid before his own warriors. He stepped into the ring. "Show me, Rose, blood." Nora placed her bleeding hand on the white stone. The moon court vanished into silver light. Every wolf present saw the dream forest. They saw Ronan's chained wolf. They saw child Nora buried beneath the rose throne. They saw Sorel's knife, King Alaric's order, the severed scent, the buried Luna's the false throne. They saw Ronan refuse to command Nora's choice. They saw him place the crown away from both thrones. Then Nora opened the final memory. A memory not from her, from Garen. A young roseblood girl, no older than 12, being dragged from Blackridge lands years ago, while Garen watched and said nothing because Veyrhall had demanded all dream-touched children be surrendered for healing. The moon court returned. Garen stood frozen. The northern wolves stared at him. Nora rose slowly. "You came to judge a buried girl while hiding one of your own." Garen's face drained of color. The power in the arena shifted. Ronan did not speak. He did not have to. The Northern Alpha had brought accusation to Veyrhall, and found his own silence waiting in the dream. Alpha Garen did not kneel at first. Pride held him upright longer than truth did. His wolf snarled beneath his skin. Not at Nora, not at Ronan, but at the memory every northern warrior had just seen. A 12-year-old roseblood girl, dragged from Blackridge lands, while Garen stood in the snow and allowed Veyrhall's riders to take her. The moon court waited. Snow fell through the silver light. Nora's hand still rested on the white stone, her blood bright against the frost. She could feel the dream throne beneath the palace answering through her palm, not forcing, only witnessing. Around the arena, wolves lowered their heads one by one, not because she commanded them, but because every pack had brought judgment to Veyrhall and found buried guilt inside its own den. Garen looked at Ronan with hatred sharpened by shame. "Your father demanded the girl." Ronan's voice was quiet. "And you surrendered her." "I was young. So was she." The words struck cleanly. Garen's jaw worked, but no defense came. Nora rose slowly. Her shoulder burned. Her restored scent trembled around her as if the air itself had not yet learned how to carry it. She looked at the Northern Alpha, and for one dangerous breath, she wanted to humiliate him the way the court had humiliated her. But the old Luna's voice whispered through the roses. "Truth is not revenge unless you make it small." Nora drew a slow breath. What was her name? Garen's face changed. "Not much. Enough." He looked away. Nora's voice hardened. "You remember." The wolves behind him shifted uneasily. At last, Garen said, "Mira of Blackridge." The name moved through the moon court like a candle being lit in a tomb. Nora felt the dream throne answer. Silver roses bloomed in a line from her feet to Garen's boots. He stared down at them as if they were knives. "She will be the first name read," Nora said. "Not mine. Hers." Then, every rose. Blood child, taken from every pack. Veyrhall's records, Blackridge records, Northern records. No more sealed healings. No more children surrendered into silence. Garen's eyes flashed. You demand law now? No, Nora said. I demand memory. Law will follow if any of you are brave enough to write it. Ronan looked at her then, and the bond between them stirred not as hunger, not as command, but as recognition. His wolf stood behind him, collar cracked, eyes bright with pain and pride. Alpha Garen finally lowered himself to one knee. The northern warriors followed. It was not surrender to Nora. It was surrender to what they had seen. Ronan turned to the gathered alphas. The dominance trial is denied. Not because I fear it, but because I will not let combat bury testimony. If any alpha wishes to challenge my rule after the records are opened, he may do so before witnesses, not before truth is read. One of the younger northern alphas lifted his chin. And the girl? Ronan did not answer for her. Nora did. I return to Veyrhall, she said. Not as prisoner, not as Luna, not as a weapon against your shame, as witness to the dream. Records. The word Luna rippled through the moon court, tense and hungry. Ronan's hand flexed at his side, but he kept silent. Nora appreciated that more than she wanted to. By dawn, the moon court was emptying. The northern alphas remained outside the palace walls under truce. Garen sent riders to Blackridge for sealed records. Ronan sent royal scribes into the old healer vaults. Sorel, guarded but no longer bound by roses, gave the keys without resistance. She looked smaller when she handed them over. Not innocent, never innocent, but stripped of the holiness that had made her lies easy to obey. Inside Veyrhall, the throne hall had changed beyond repair. The obsidian throne lay in black shards. The moonbone throne stood risen from beneath it, covered in living silver roses. Ronan's crown remained on the cracked basin, unworn. No one touched it. Nora stood before the first opened record as the scribes read. Mira of Blackridge, taken under royal moon healing order. Scent removed. Dream bond sealed. Declared dead of fever. A woman in the back of the hall began to sob. Then another. Then an old guard removed his helm and covered his face. Name after name followed. Roseblood girls. Dream-touched boys. Children with sense too strange for pack law. Servant daughters renamed as cursed. Noble daughters hidden as mad. Every life pressed flat beneath the word protection. Nora did not cry at first. She stood straight because someone had to. Ronan stood beside her, crownless, silent, taking every name like a blow his throne had earned. When the scribes reached the records signed by his father, he did not look away. When they reached the records signed by Sorel, the healer closed her eyes. Nora turned to her. You will read them yourself tomorrow. Sorel opened her eyes, wet with tears. All of them? All of them. The healer bowed her head. Then I will. That was not forgiveness. It was work. Days passed, though Veyrhall seemed to live inside one long moonlit hour. The moon tower was unsealed. Its chamber was not destroyed. Nora ordered it opened as a sanctuary for dream-touched children, not a prison. The first night the doors remained unlocked. Silver roses grew across the threshold and did not burn anyone who crossed. Ronan changed the law before the next full moon. No child could be declared scentless without independent witness. No healer could sever scent, bond, or dream without open trial. No royal order could hide a child beneath temple secrecy. No alpha could surrender a dream-touched wolf to Veyrhall without public record. And no crown of Veyrhall could be worn until the moonbone throne and the dream records were acknowledged before every pack. Some nobles hated him for it. Some feared Nora more than before. Truth did not make the kingdom gentle overnight, but it made lying harder. On the 7th night, Nora returned alone to the Silver Forest. She did not enter by force. She lay in the moon tower, now with the door open, and let sleep come. The ancient throne waited beneath the black moon. The buried girl no longer lay beneath it. She stood beside Nora, silver-eyed and calm, not separate now, not fully merged either. A healed wound did not become smooth just because it closed. The dark wolf approached from the trees, the collar around its throat hung by one final cracked link. Ronan appeared behind it, dressed in simple black, no crown, no armor. In dreams, he looked less tired now, but more human. That seemed fair. Truth had taken the armor first. Nora looked at the last chain. "Can I break it?" The wolf lowered its head. Ronan answered instead. "Only if you choose to. Not because I need it." She studied him. "You do need it." "Yes," he said. "But need is not permission." The word settled gently in the forest. Nora stepped closer to the wolf. She placed one hand on the final link, then paused. The last time people chose for her, they called it mercy. She would not repeat that violence, not even to heal him. She looked at Ronan. "And if this frees the bond fully, then we face it awake. No claiming. No. No court announcement. No. No." Using the word mate, like it answers everything. A faint, tired smile touched his mouth. "It answers very little. From what I have learned." Nora almost smiled back. Almost. Then she broke the final link. The collar fell into silver grass and dissolved. The dark wolf lifted its head and howled. In the waking palace, every wolf in Veyrhall heard it not as command, not as madness, but as a healed sound returning to the world. The silver forest brightened. Roses bloomed across the throne, across the trees, across the dream sky itself. Ronan staggered once. Nora caught his hand before thinking. He went still. So did she. Their bond opened, not as a chain, not as hunger, but as a door neither was forced to walk through. She felt his grief, his shame, his restraint, his fierce desire to protect without owning. He felt her loneliness, her anger, her fear of being made sacred before she was allowed to be herself. Neither looked away. When Nora woke, dawn was touching the moon tower windows. Ronan sat in a chair near the open door, awake, as if he had been waiting outside her choice rather than inside it. He rose when she stirred. "Did it work?" he asked. Nora listened inward. For the first time in her life, she smelled the morning before she saw it. Salt from the sea. Cold stone. Silver roses. Ronan's wolf at a careful distance. Her own scent, steady beneath her skin. "Yes," she whispered. Weeks later, Veyrhall gathered again in the throne hall. The moonbone throne remained. The obsidian shards had been set into the floor around it, not hidden, so every ruler after Ronan would stand on the evidence of what had broken. The names of the Roseblood children were carved along the walls. Mira of Blackridge was first. Ronan took his crown from the basin. He did not place it on his head. He held it before the court and said, "This crown will not sit above buried dreams again." Then he set it beside the moonbone throne, lower than the roses. Only then did Nora step forward. She wore no Luna cloak, no royal jewels, only a simple silver-gray gown embroidered at the sleeves with roses and wolves. Her scent filled the hall, and no one called it threat. "I was not empty," she said. "I was hidden. There is a difference." The court listened. "I will not be used as proof that the kingdom is healed, because one stolen girl was restored. Healing is not a ceremony. It is record, law, witness, and time." Ronan lowered his head. The court followed. That night, Nora stood with him on the balcony below the moon tower. The sea was black beneath the cliffs. Silver roses climbed the stone behind them, no longer prison flowers, but living memory. Ronan stood beside her, close enough for warmth, far enough for choice. "I do not ask you to forgive the king who locked you away," he said. Nora looked at him. "Good." His mouth softened. I ask only whether I may keep learning how not to become him again. She watched the moonlight touch his face, the scar at his throat now pale and closed. Then she held out her hand. He took it carefully. The bond warmed, but did not pull. Far below, wolves howled across Veyrhall, and for the first time, Nora heard the answer inside herself. Not empty. Never empty. Nora Vale, the girl with no scent, had entered the moon tower as a warning. She left it as the dream Veyrhall could no longer bury. And beside her, the Alpha King did not ask her to kneel, claim, or forget. He simply held her hand under the moon, while the silver roses bloomed awake.